The chain wasn't real, not anymore. But she still felt it around her neck. Forged from bio-coated titanium and laced with neurolocks, the slave collar had once dictated her heartbeat, her movement, even her dreams. She hadn't worn it in years. Yet sometimes, in the cold of deep space or the silence between battle cries, Zahara of Soul still reached for it without thinking. Because once, she had been theirs. One of the Ashborn, a caste bred by the galactic noble houses from the DNA of conquered worlds. They weren't considered people, they were genetic solutions. Born in vats, trained in pain, and sold as luxury property to the highest bidder. Zahara was given to Lord Kedron of Veros, a planetary monarch whose empire ran on spice mines and gladiator rings. He wanted a pet, something beautiful and obedient to parade in his court. He paid extra for her because her eyes burned copper gold, an extremely rare trait from the irradiated lineages of old Earth survivors. He had no idea what else he was buying. They named her Sarah, which meant Silent One in Verosian. She was trained not to speak unless spoken to, not to fight unless ordered, not to look up, to kneel. She knelt. For 5 years. But she was never silent. She listened. To the guards who whispered rebellion. To the cooks who cried over poisoned water. To the old slaves who still dreamed of stars. She watched, too. The training routines of the gladiators. The weapon vault codes. The rhythms of security drones and the ego patterns of her master. And above all, she remembered. Zahara did not know her real mother, but she knew one thing: she had come from fire. That memory lived in her veins like a sleeping sun. It awoke the Night Lord Kedron threw a child slave into the flame pits for fun. Zahara moved before she could think. She grabbed the ceremonial dagger from the nearest guard, split his throat like it was written in her blood, and hurled herself into the flames after the boy. The crowd screamed. But Zahara didn't burn. The fire recognized her. Something ancient uncoiled in her DNA, something buried by the Ashborn engineers. The last remnant of a Terran bloodline known only in whispers. The Pyrokin, rumored warriors who had once fought with suns in their hands before the galaxy broke Earth. They were myths. Until Zahara screamed, and the entire palace ignited. She didn't remember much of what followed. Only the heat. The chains melting. The screams of lords who had never known fear. The boy she saved, clutching her leg as fire danced around them. When she awoke, the Verosian throne was ash. And every Ashborn in the palace was free. She was no longer Sarah. She was Zahara. And the galaxy would remember her name. The slaves didn't flee. They rallied. They crowned her with a circlet forged from the melted chains of their captivity. She didn't ask for leadership, but none could stand taller than the woman who walked out of fire carrying freedom in her fists. Zahara led the Ash Uprising, a rebellion that spread across 12 star systems in a month. The noble houses laughed at first. They called her the Flame Girl, a peasant's tale. Then their spice fleets vanished. Their mercenary armies turned traitor mid-battle. Their planetary governors defected with their ships and pledged loyalty to the Queen of Fire. Zahara didn't want a crown. So she built one. From the ruins of the system she freed, Zahara established the Cinder Throne, a mobile capital formed from 6 warships stitched together by refugee engineers. It orbited no sun. It pledged allegiance to no empire. Its only law: no chain shall ever be reforged. The galaxy didn't know how to handle her. Some called her a terrorist. Others, a messiah. The old noble houses placed a bounty on her head so large, assassins stopped killing each other in fear they'd all miss the payday. But no one could touch her. Because Zahara didn't fight for glory. She fought for the ones still kneeling in shadows. For the girls with fire in their blood who hadn't burned yet. And every time a planet cried for help, she came. Not in silence. In fire. She wielded it like breath. Like poetry. It danced from her fingertips, wrapped around her arms, became wings when she leapt from drop ships and fell screaming into enemy strongholds. They called her a goddess. She corrected them. "I am not divine," she said once, over a burning city. "I am what you made when you built cages and thought we wouldn't fight back." Eventually, the great empires did more than tremble. They broke. The Verosian monarchy was abolished. The Ashborn were reclassified as sovereign citizens under galactic law. And in the ruins of her old master's palace, a statue was raised, not to her, but to all those who rose with her. Zahara never ruled like a queen. She walked among the freed. Helped rebuild orphan planets. Sat with grieving mothers and bathed in the fire of every sun they'd once been forbidden to see. And in every slave pit still hidden across the stars, the children whisper stories. She was theirs once. But fire does not kneel. It waits. and then it burns. They thought she was a slave. They were wrong. She became the Queen of Fire.